Too often, people want what they want.
But you should have it available, that's the problem.
Or what they think they want. It's usually in some form of happiness.
No.
Which makes sense.
Seems the woman in question has a B boarding card. She stepped in line ahead of the other passengers in the C line.
I don't appreciate this at all.
But the irony of their impatience is that only learning to accept the bad along with the good will usually obtain those things that are worthwhile. So listen, if you will, to a tale of a boy who learns this lesson the hard way. Once there was a widow who had a son called Peter. He was a strong, able boy, but he did not enjoy going to school. And he was forever daydreaming. "Peter, what are you dreaming about this time?" his teacher would say to him. "I'm thinking about what I'd like to be when I grow up," Peter replied. "Be patient. There's plenty of time for that. Being grown up isn't all fun, you know," his teacher said. But Peter found it hard to enjoy whatever he was doing in the moment, and he was always hankering after that next thing. In winter, he longed for it to be summer again, and in summer, he looked forward to the skating and the warm fires of winter. At school, he would long for the day to be over so he could go home, and on Sunday nights he would sigh. If only the holidays would come. What he enjoyed most was playing with his friend Liza. She was good as companion as any boy. No matter how impatient Peter was, she never took offense. "When I grow up, I shall marry Liza," Peter said to himself. Often he wandered through the forest, dreaming about the future. Sometimes he would lay down on the soft forest floor in the warm sun, his hands behind his head staring up at the sky. One afternoon, he began to grow sleepy, and he heard someone calling his name. "Peter! Peter!" He opened his eyes. Standing before him was a woman. In her hand she held a silver ball from which dangled a silken golden thread. "See what I've got here, Peter," she said, offering the ball to him. "What is it?" he asked curiously, touching the fine golden thread. "This is your life thread," the woman replied. "Do not touch it, and time will pass by normally. But if you wish for time to pass by more quickly, you have only to pull the thread a little way, and an hour will pass by like a second. But I warn you, once the thread has been pulled out, it cannot be pushed back in again. Indeed, it will disappear like a puff of smoke. This ball is for you. But if you accept my gift, you must tell no one, for on the day you do, you shall die. Now say, do you want it?" Peter seized the gift joyfully from her. It was just what he wanted. He examined the silver ball. It was light and solid, made of a single piece, only a tiny hole from which the bright thread hung. He stuffed the ball in his pocket and ran home. Making sure that his mother was out, he examined it again. He longed to give it a quick tug, but dared not do so. Not yet. The following day at school, Peter sat daydreaming about what he would do with his magic thread. His teacher scolded him for not concentrating on his work. "Peter, focus!" If only, he thought, it was time to go home. And then he felt the silver ball in his pocket. If he pulled out a tiny bit of thread, the day would be over. Carefully, he took hold of it. And it tugged. Suddenly, the teacher was telling everyone to pack up their books and to leave the classroom. Peter was overjoyed. It worked! He ran all the way home. How easy his life would be now. All these troubles were over. From that day forth, he began to pull the thread just a little bit every day. One day, however, it occurred to him it was stupid to pull the thread just a little. If he gave it a hard tug, school could be over altogether. Then he could start learning a trade and he could marry Liza. So that night, he gave the thread a mighty tug. And in the morning, he awoke to find himself apprenticed to a carpenter. He loved his new life, climbing about on roofs and scaffolding and lifting and hammering great beams into place that smelled of the forest. But sometimes, when payday seemed too far off, he gave the thread a little tug, and suddenly, the week was drawing to a close and he had money in his pocket. Liza had also come to town, and Peter began to grow impatient for the day when they would be married. In another year, I will have learned to be a capable wife. Peter fingered the silver ball in his pocket. But things do not always go as we expect. Before the wedding could take place, Peter received an official-looking letter. It was a trepidation. It stated that he must report for 2 years military service. He showed the letter to Liza. Well, there's nothing for it. We'll just have to wait.